Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today I wanted to talk briefly just about when to change your transmission fluid and why you should change it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now there's different types of transmissions. You obviously have an automatic transmission and a manual transmission. In the automatic transmissions, you have like your basic automatic transmission, but you also have what's known as a CVT, which is a continuously variable transmission. A lot of times those are found in Nissans, things like that. You also have what's known as a DCT transmission, which is a dual clutch transmission. You have dual dry clutch transmissions, which is used like in the Ford Power Shift transmissions. You also have the dual wet clutch transmissions that are also used in some of the Ferraris as shown here. This Ferrari 488 GTB features a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox made by Getrag. Now, aside from those automatic type transmissions, which means basically you're not shifting a clutch, a lot of times with your DCT transmissions, you have a TCM, which is your transmission control module. Because that has a dual clutch, that transmission control module is a computer that kind of does the job of being the clutch and shifting it for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. But in this video, we're talking about changing the transmission regardless of what type of automatic transmission you have, as we just mentioned the different ones. Also manual transmissions where you're having to push the clutch and shifting 5, 6, 7 speeds, whatever the case is. All of those utilize transmission fluid and all of them need to be changed at certain times. That's what we're going to talk about because that's one of the fluids that a lot of times car owners neglect, and then you wind up with a very expensive bill when your transmission fails. But let's come here and close. This right here is just a Dodge Neon SRT design. I'm just going to show you this one here is an easy one because you have a dipstick where you can check your transmission fluid levels, because that's another important thing to do, is even if you're not hitting it on the intervals where you want to be changing it, you still want to be checking your levels, because if it gets low, you could also have a problem as well. So let me get a camera here up close and we'll take a look at this one and then we'll look at some other vehicles. Coming in here, you can see right here, this one here says engine oil. So that's obviously to check your oil. Then we have another dipstick right here. And if we see there that says, you can see it right here, it says trans on it. So that's your transmission fluid dipstick right there. Now it's important to know when you're checking transmission fluid as opposed to oil, you want this to be hot because transmission fluid expands. If you want to see a video I did where I showed how to properly check your transmission fluid levels, you can check that out via the link above. I'll also have it down in the description with some other videos that might be useful for you. But these kind of vehicles are easy because you have it right here. Now, some other vehicles you'll have it, but the dipstick may be red, so that way you can easily differentiate it as shown here. On this vehicle, which is a Chevy, you can see it's a red one. You just pop the tab. You can pull it out that way. And if you need to add transmission fluid, you would also do it in that same spot as well, which makes it nice and easy. Now, some vehicles which have a sealed transmission, they don't have it at all, which those can be a little bit of a problem, but let's take a look at one of those. Looking under here, and I apologize, it's starting to rain, so if you see droplets going by the camera, that's what that is. But you can see here we have our oil dipstick, but nothing else here to check the transmission. This particular vehicle claims it's got a sealed transmission, so you don't have to worry about checking fluids and things like that. And we'll go back in the garage, we'll talk about that because that can be misleading. So how would you check it on this one? Now, what we just saw in those sealed transmissions, and a lot of times those are on newer vehicles, they claim they're maintenance free for the life of the vehicle. That's misleading, okay? Because what they're basing it on is basically the warranty that they cover on the vehicle, which is usually just around 100,000 miles. And a lot of people figure, oh, I don't have a dipstick, there's no way to check it, to add it, I'm good. Well, that's not the case. You can check the fluid levels in those. A lot of times you need to go underneath, and on the side of the transmission oil pan, you'll have a little plug that you can remove, and that's a level plug, and you can see where the level is, and you really want to open that and check it periodically and check the color of the transmission to make sure that it's not burning. And also you want to make sure that it's trickling out, because if it's filled to the proper level, when you remove that plug, you're going to have just a steady stream dripping down. Take a look right here, and this is what it should look like. As we come underneath the vehicle, you can see there's our transmission. On the side of it, there is our transmission oil pan. You see that little plug right there. All we have to do is take a ratchet, and we can undo that plug, and we can loosen it. So as we start to loosen it here, you're going to start to see transmission fluid starting to seep out, which is what you want to see. Right here, you can see it's starting to come through. That's a good indication that the levels are where they need to be. But if we loosen it just a little bit more, we should have a steady stream, and that'll let you know that we're good. Just like that. Now, in the event that you need to add transmission fluid to these seal type, on top of that oil pan right there for the transmission fluid, you'll see there's a little hex pattern right there. That's our fill plug. If you go ahead and remove that, you can just insert a funnel right into there, and that's where you would add your transmission fluid while checking the levels through that level plug to make sure you don't overfill it. So if you have one of those vehicles, you still want to make a point to do that and to check that. If you have the dipstick, that's even easier because you can pull it out, you can check the color of the fluid. You always want it to be that translucent kind of color. You don't want it to be black or dark brown because at that point, it's already starting to burn and your transmission's in danger. This is a perfect example. You can see the color is good, nice and translucent. Levels are good as well. Now, that's why it's important to check your transmission fluid and to change it. Now, you might be wondering, well, how often do I need to change it? Rule of thumb, if you have a manual transmission, you want to be changing that at around 30 to 50,000 miles. It's very important that you do that. If you have an automatic transmission, you want to be changing it between 75 to 100,000 miles. A lot of times the manual that comes with your vehicle, when at the back where it has the scheduled maintenance section, it'll let you know for your particular vehicle, but it's usually in that range. Not a bad idea to do it sooner, especially if you're keeping up on your fluid, you're checking the dipstick, and the fluid is coming out translucent. Should be that pinkish color by default. Some other transmission fluids might be a different color, but it should always be that translucent, clearish color. If it's getting that dark, coffee-ish kind of color or black, you want to get rid of that. Also, if you smell it, if it has a burning smell, that's really dangerous at that point because as transmission fluid heats up from a lot of wear and tear and use, which is another thing, if you have a lot of stop and go with a manual transmission or even with an automatic where it's working a lot under load and a lot of shifting, it can burn quicker. So what you want to make sure is if you're smelling any kind of a burning smell, you definitely want to get rid of it at that point and swap it out. But check for the color as well, because what you want to do is get rid of it because as it starts to burn, it's going to lose its lubricating properties of it, and that's when things can get dangerous on there. What we're going to do now, I'm going to show you two different vehicles that we did. One that we changed it at the right time, and you can still see how worn out it was versus new. And then after that, we're going to show another vehicle in the other garage that we're going to go into that we have. And we're going to show another one where the car was driven in one of those sealed transmissions, maintenance-free type things. And the car lasted way beyond that point and what the transmission fluid looked like and how bad it was and why it's important to change it. Take a look. Now this vehicle here, we're changing it. It just hit the 100,000 mile mark. You can see the fluid is dark, but still has a little bit of the burgundy color. There you can see it better too. It's not completely black and brown. Here's a comparison. On the left is obviously the new fluid that's going in versus on the right what came out at 100,000 miles. Definitely don't want to push it beyond that. You can see it's already getting pretty dark, but still not completely black. Now on this vehicle, this one had the sealed transmission. This has over 200,000 miles on it. You can see this is coming out, almost looks like a dark mud or dark coffee. No hint of any of the pinkish color. You can see in the pan as well. Look at that. It's coming out terrible. And let's take here and look at a comparison here. On the left is what came out. On the right is what's going in. You can see this one's completely burned, completely gone, well beyond the point that it should have been changed out. Now, on some other vehicles, mainly older vehicles, you don't have a drain plug all the time for the transmission fluid, so you have to drop the transmission oil pan completely and get all the fluid out and then put it back in and refill it at that point. The benefit to those that you can easily get to the filter right there and swap that out while you're in there. In addition, you can also replace the gasket on the transmission oil pan. So if you're going to be getting into there, it makes sense to just take care of all that. And then you just put your new filter in and then reassemble everything. and then you would then fill it up with the fluid at that point. But there's our filter in place. We're on the newer type. Your transmission oil filter, as seen here, is inside the transmission. You would have to take it apart to get to it. Now, next I'm going to show you the different transmission fluids. So I'm going to show you right now, I'm going to grab a manual transmission fluid, and then we're going to look at also automatic transmission fluid. Here we have two examples of transmission fluid. On the left, we have our automatic transmission fluid. Clearly calls it out there, automatic transmission fluid. On the right, this is manual transmission fluid. You can see how it's called out right here, synthetic manual transmission fluid. These are not interchangeable for vehicles. So you can't use this one in every vehicle with manual transmission fluid. This specific one here is actually for a Jeep Wrangler that I'm going to be working on that has a manual transmission. But it's important that you find out what kind yours takes. If we come here up close, you can see it says right there, API GL475W90. That's specific to the Jeep Wrangler. For other manual transmissions, it could be different. There's a lot of different fluids for that. And same goes here with the automatic transmission fluid. This one here, how it says right here, we come up close, recommended for Dexron 5, Dexron 6, Mercon, and all these different ones. You need to check the specs for your vehicle to see what kind of fluid it takes. If it's not listed in your owner's manual, then you can go online to the automotive manufacturer's website or other sites out there, forums, and find out what it is, but you want to make sure it's specific. Automatic transmission fluid, for example, there's a lot of different ones out there, different ones for certain vehicles. You want to make sure that you get it right. You don't want to put just anything in there. Same with the manual transmission fluid. So make sure you're putting the right one in there when you change it out or when you're topping it off. And another thing to keep in mind for manual transmissions, you don't always have that dipstick either. Like, for example, in the Jeep that we're going to be working on, and unfortunately I can't show you right now, but that does not have a dipstick. So the way to check the levels on that, you need to get to the transmission, the manual transmission. You'll have two plugs on it. You'll have a filling plug up top. You'll have a drain plug towards the bottom. A lot of times if you open the filling plug, you want the levels to be filled up to there. And what you could do with that one as well, you can drain a little bit out to test the color, see how it looks if you're not up to speed on the mileage on it. But as we mentioned already, 30 to 60,000 miles, or actually 30 to 50 is what I would go with. You want to be changing that out anyway, because that's getting a lot of wear and tear on the manual transmission, especially if you're in under a lot of load or a lot of traffic where you're going through the gears, that can wear that out. But that's how you want to do that one. You'll have to fill that one differently. With automatic transmission fluids, if you have one with a dipstick, you would just put a funnel right in there and top it off accordingly. Get a narrow funnel that can fit right down in there. You fit it in like that, and then just apply it. And you want to add it slowly. You don't want to dump a whole bunch in there because you definitely don't want to overfill it. So you want to just take your time and just pour it slowly in. And as mentioned already, I have the video where I show how to check your your automatic transmission fluid. That'll cover some stuff in there as well. But it's important to always maintain your transmission. As we talked about already, just to recap again, periodically check the levels. Make sure that you don't need to add any. If you do, make sure that you get the right transmission fluid for your vehicle. You top it off accordingly. You do not want to overfill it. You want to check the dipstick and make sure that you're right in the full range where you need to be, but not over that. And also when you're checking it, look for the color. You want it to have that more translucent, kind of clearish color. If it's getting too dark, swap it out and get rid of it. If that's not the case, then just make sure you're maintaining your mileage. As mentioned already, manual transmission, 30 to 50,000, automatic, 75 to 100. Could go a little bit less on the automatic transmission, depending how your wear and tear and usage is. As mentioned already, make sure that you're checking your manufacturer's manual, or if not, go onto some forums online if you don't know it and find out for either an automatic or manual. Make sure you're getting the right transmission fluid for your vehicle. It's a lot cheaper to maintain the fluids and salvage your transmission than to ignore it like a lot of people do. And I've been guilty of that too sometimes, is you kind of forget about it. You're focusing on the other fluids, and then you wind up damaging your transmission because that can be a very costly repair. Check out some of the links down in the description. I'll have some other links to other transmission videos that I've done. We'll have those down there that might be beneficial for you. But that wraps up this video. Just wanted to do a quick video because I hear so many times of people just neglecting that and then having an issue, especially if you have one of those sealed transmissions where you don't have a dipstick and you think that it's good to go for life. That's not the case. You still want to maintain it. Go underneath, find the plug, and check the levels through the plug and maintain it that way, because they're only guaranteeing it for their warranty and not for the life. If you take care of the vehicle, you may get a lot more out of it than their warranty, and then you're stuck. But I hope that this video was informative for you, helped you out just to understand your transmission fluid schedules of maintaining that. Please send me any questions and comments. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate all the support. So please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.